New York City, October 1942, 4:50 a.m. A U.S. Army supply truck leaves Pier 3 on the Hudson River. The driver signs the logbook, checks his route sheet twice, and pulls into the empty street. The truck holds crates of U.S. Army rations, medical kits, and bundled cigarettes intended for a depot in New Jersey. The manifest is stamped, verified, and approved. The truck never arrives. At 6:15 a.m., the depot sergeant marks the load as overdue. He assumes a mechanical breakdown. He sends a phone call to the Army Transport Office. The officer on duty logs the report. No emergency raised. Delays are common. Wartime traffic creates detours. Bridges open late. Drivers take long routes. By noon, the truck is still missing. The Army files a supply discrepancy report. Local police are notified. A patrol car checks the assigned route. Nothing. No debris. No sign of an accident. The truck has vanished. What no one knows is that the truck was redirected before it ever reached the main avenue. Two men approached the driver at a stoplight on West Street. They flashed badges. The driver assumed they were military police. They told him his route had changed. He followed. He turned into a warehouse district controlled by men linked to New York's waterfront unions long influenced by figures associated with the Mangano and Luciano crime families. Inside a warehouse near Charles Street, the truck was unloaded quickly. Cigarettes, canned goods, blankets, and medical kits were removed. The crates were divided into smaller loads. The truck was then stripped of its numbering plates. By sunrise, the U.S. Army had lost track of the shipment completely. This was not an isolated case. Across 1942 and 1943, small discrepancies began appearing around New York's military supply chain. A crate listed as damaged. A box reported as lost in transit. A truck delayed without explanation. At first, each case seemed ordinary, but the pattern accelerated. More shortages, more missing loads, more inconsistencies in route logs. Every missing crate had one thing in common. The last confirmed sighting was always at a dock, warehouse, or transport point where civilian labor, not military personnel, handled the cargo. And civilian labor on the docks was controlled by the mob at the Brooklyn Army Terminal. Thousands of shipments passed through weekly. Civilian longshoremen controlled the cranes, the conveyors, the forklifts, and the staging zones. Many belonged to waterfront unions with deep Mafia influence. These men didn't need to break locks or carry out robberies. They simply diverted crates before they were officially logged. Some boxes never reached the Army inventory system at all. By late November 1942, Army inspectors discovered unusual weight discrepancies in several pallets. A pallet listed as containing 30 crates held 24. Another listed as containing Army boots was filled with scrap packing material. The shipping documents were clean. The signatures matched recorded staff. Everything appeared legitimate. The inspectors could not pinpoint where the diversion occurred. The supply chain stretched from ships to docks to storage platforms to trucks to depots. Every handoff point was crowded, every checkpoint overloaded. The war increased volume faster than oversight could keep up. Meanwhile, on the streets, rumors spread quietly across certain neighborhoods. Cigarettes straight from the docks, Army blankets never issued, chocolate bars identical to GI rations, boots that matched Army design, morphine syrettes with military packaging. Small-time dealers passed the goods around. Larger operators began collecting shipments. And above these operators, men tied to the Luciano and Genovese networks coordinated the movement. The Mafia didn't need to steal from moving trucks. They controlled the staging areas. They controlled the paperwork. They controlled the union members who lifted the crates from ships to storage. If a crate vanished before being scanned, there was no record that it ever existed. The Army suspected internal mistakes. They blamed clerical errors. They retrained warehouse clerks. They tightened the inspection procedures, but the thefts didn't slow. They grew. On December 11, 1942, a shipment of medical supplies was reported missing from a warehouse near 12th Avenue. The warehouse log showed the crates loaded onto a truck. The truck number was real. The signature matched a known driver. But the driver never signed that sheet. His shift records placed him in a different borough at the time. Someone forged the slip. The army realized someone had access to official forms. In early January 1943, a more alarming incident occurred. An entire pallet of army rations, enough to supply several hundred soldiers, disappeared from a staging area at the Brooklyn terminal. It had been placed near the loading zone at 7:40 p.m. When the night shift arrived, the pallet was gone. The army launched an internal inquiry. They questioned dock supervisors. No one knew anything. They questioned civilian workers. Silence. They reviewed the logs. The pallet was marked as delivered and transferred correctly. There were no signatures indicating removal. The paperwork showed a normal chain of custody. But the pallet was missing. Investigators expanded their scope. They checked entry records. They checked vehicle logs. They checked gate surveillance. Nothing showed unusual activity. What investigators didn't understand was that the Mafia didn't need disguise or force. They used familiarity. Workers saw the same faces daily. A man guiding a forklift was assumed to be a worker on the next shift. A truck parked near the loading zone was assumed to be part of the workflow. In a chaotic wartime environment, routine created invisibility. By February 1943, enough evidence accumulated for the army to suspect organized crime, but proving it was nearly impossible. The Mafia operated through layers. Dock workers didn't know the brokers. Brokers didn't know the higher-ups. Drivers only received instructions. No one saw the entire structure. Meanwhile, goods continued moving through the pipeline. Stolen cigarettes appeared in bars across Manhattan. Army blankets were sold in crowded markets in the Bronx. Canned meats and chocolate, normally reserved for soldiers, were found in small grocery shops in Brooklyn. Some items even made their way onto freighters bound for overseas black markets. The Mafia had turned U.S. Army supplies into a steady income stream, and this was just the American side. In Sicily, the pipeline would grow even larger. By March 1943, the theft pattern becomes clearer to investigators assigned to the New York ports. Nothing dramatic, nothing violent, just a steady stream of missing army property that leaves no trace. Crates with military seals vanish between the ship and the truck. Pallets shrink in size between the loading platform and the warehouse. Trucks arrive with fewer boxes than recorded. Every disappearance occurs within crowded civilian-operated zones. Inside the Brooklyn Army Terminal, investigators walk the aisles with clipboards. They stop at marked pallets. They check numbers. They check signatures. They check weight logs. The paperwork matches the official entries. The crates, however, do not. Some are lighter than listed. Some contain ordinary packing material instead of supplies. Some are missing entirely. Supervisors blame clerical errors. Dock workers claim miscounts. Drivers insist they delivered what they were assigned. No one provides a clear explanation. Behind the warehouses, trucks move at all hours. Some carry army goods to legitimate depots. Others turn into streets controlled by union crews linked to organized crime. Drivers follow instructions written on slips handed to them by foremen. Some of these slips are genuine. Some are forged. Drivers cannot tell the difference. They follow orders. They drop crates at addresses they assume are army approved. In reality, many of these addresses lead to storage rooms controlled by intermediaries. In one case, an investigator traces a box of medical bandages from a ship off Pier 4 to a storage room beneath an old industrial building in Brooklyn. The box is stacked with other military supplies. None are marked for transfer. None appear in official army records. The investigator logs the discovery. Before he can act, the boxes are removed overnight. The room is empty by morning. The building owner denies renting the space. The incident is recorded. No arrests follow. Meanwhile, cigarette shortages among civilians increase demand for black market products. US Army cigarettes become valuable commodities. Soldiers receive them in rations. Civilians cannot obtain them legally. The Mafia pipeline fills that gap. Stolen cartons from New York depots appear in bars near Mulberry Street, in corner shops in Harlem, and in back-alley gatherings across the Bronx. Discreet exchanges occur behind closed doors. Patrons know these goods are not meant for them. The price reflects it. In mid-March, 2 investigators observe a truck unloading unmarked crates near a warehouse close to the East River. The crates resemble Army cargo. The workers unloading them avoid eye contact. When the investigators approach, the workers scatter. The truck drives off. The crates disappear through a side door. By the time the investigators secure a warrant, the crates are gone. The warehouse floor is freshly cleaned. No trace remains. The Army continues issuing discrepancy reports. Warehouse commanders receive repeated warnings. Dock supervisors conduct internal reviews. None lead to meaningful changes. The supply chain remains overwhelmed. Volume increases as the war escalates. Oversight remains thin. In April 1943, the first reliable witness emerges. A truck mechanic in Jersey City reports that he repaired a vehicle with concealed compartments welded beneath the cargo bed. The compartments contained cigarette cartons bearing US Army markings. The mechanic tells his supervisor. The supervisor reports it to authorities. Investigators visit the shop. The truck is gone. The mechanic cannot provide details about the owner. The lead ends there. On the docks, routine continues. Workers show up in the early morning. They unload ships. They move cargo to staging areas. They drink coffee from metal flasks. They talk about baseball, rationing, and their families. None openly discuss the thefts, but the quiet signs are visible. Workers wearing new boots identical to Army issue, cigarettes in military wrappers passed casually in break areas, blankets in storage rooms that match Army stock. Supervisors ask no questions. Workers provide no answers. In late April, investigators begin inspecting the logbooks more closely. They find repeated signatures from the same foreman at times when he was not on duty. They confront him. He denies knowledge. He claims clerical mix-up. Other workers confirm he was present during some shifts, but cannot verify others. The investigators suspect forged signatures. They cannot prove it. The pipeline grows more efficient. Crates are diverted smoothly from Army custody to Mafia-controlled networks. Some are transported by truck to small storage buildings in Queens and the Bronx. Others move by boat through smaller piers along the East River. Some shipments go offshore, loaded onto vessels traveling to distant black markets. Others remain in the city, fueling underground trade. In early May 1943, a shipment of Army medical kits disappears from a supply depot in New Jersey. The depot commander orders a full recount. The count confirms the shortage. The missing kits reappear days later in a warehouse rented to a civilian distributor known to have connections with organized crime. The distributor claims he bought the goods legally. He provides a receipt. The receipt is forged. Investigators seize the items. The distributor is questioned. He refuses to identify his supplier. Without direct evidence, he is released. By June 1943, the scale becomes undeniable. Internal Army reports indicate repeated shortages in rations, cigarettes, medical supplies, and clothing. Investigators connect multiple cases to the same network of warehouses and docks. Some of these locations are tied to individuals known to law enforcement for earlier involvement in union racketeering and dockside extortion. These individuals maintain influence over longshoremen, truck drivers, and warehouse workers. Their authority ensures cooperation and silence. Meanwhile, the stolen goods reach broader markets. If a bar owner in Manhattan wants chocolate bars, a broker delivers them. If a shopkeeper in the Bronx wants canned meats, a contact supplies them. If a landlord in Brooklyn wants blankets for winter, a truck drops them off. The goods flow quietly, predictably, and profitably. In July 1943, Investigators conduct coordinated inspections across several warehouses. They arrive unannounced. Workers pause. Some attempt to leave. Investigators inspect pallets, boxes, and storage areas. Some crates contain legitimate goods, others hold mixed contents. A few are empty but marked as full. Several workers claim ignorance. Supervisors insist on errors. The inspections uncover irregularities, but no definitive proof of theft. The thefts continue. By August 1943, the Army recognizes that the issue may extend beyond the docks. Reports from units in Sicily mention American goods appearing in civilian markets. Italian civilians purchase cigarettes and canned food that match US Army markings. Some items are traced back to supply shipments processed through New York military police investigate. They find intermediaries with connections to Sicilian Mafia figures. The link becomes clearer. The pipeline stretches from New York docks to Sicilian towns. The Mafia in Sicily had been weakened by earlier political crackdowns, but the power vacuum created by war allows them to re-establish control quickly. They oversee rural roads, storage areas, and distribution points. American goods stolen in New York and rerouted through the supply chain find eager buyers in Sicilian markets. Military police receive reports of US blankets used in civilian homes, Army clothing worn in town squares, and US rations sold in shops. The pipeline is no longer just a local issue, it has become transatlantic. Investigators in New York attempt to coordinate with military police overseas. Communication is slow. Documentation is incomplete. The war dominates military priorities. Theft investigations remain secondary. Crates continue to disappear. Goods continue to move. The network becomes more entrenched, and the Army still lacks a full understanding of its scale. By September 1943, Army investigators recognize that the theft pipeline extends beyond New York and New Jersey. Reports from Sicily arrive. Weekly military police document American goods appearing in town markets, rural villages, and small coastal cities. Civilians carry Army blankets. Children hold American chocolate bars identical to GI rations. Stores sell canned meat recently offloaded from US supply ships. Every item matches military inventory codes processed through East Coast ports months earlier. Military police in Sicily track several items to specific depots. Some crates belong to supply shipments handled on Brooklyn docks. Others come from ships routed through New Jersey terminals. The pattern suggests a steady stream of diverted goods. The link between American port thefts and Sicilian black markets becomes difficult to ignore. In Palermo, investigators observe men unloading crates at night near a small fishing harbour. The crates bear faded US Army stencils. Locals gather to purchase cigarettes and food items. No one speaks when questioned. The exchange ends quickly. The crates disappear into nearby buildings. The investigators record the details and leave the scene repeats in other towns, Cefalù, Catania, Agrigento, where American goods appear in unexpected quantities. The Mafia in Sicily handles distribution quietly. Their structure remains rural and decentralized. Contacts along farm roads direct shipments. Intermediaries handle storage. Villagers buy what they can afford. Military goods become currency. Cigarettes become the most valuable commodity. A single carton can secure favors, services, or local cooperation. The flow strengthens Mafia influence in war-torn communities. Back in New York, the Army increases oversight. New regulations require additional verification for all dockside transfers. Trucks must carry updated route sheets. Drivers must report at each checkpoint. The changes slow operations, but do not stop the thefts. Workers still divert crates before inventory entries. Foremen still hand drivers slips with adjusted routes. Clerks still issue signatures under pressure from superiors influenced by organized crime. In October 1943, investigators attempt a full audit of Pier 3. They review ship manifests dating back 6 months. They compare them to warehouse receipts. Dozens of cases remain unresolved. Several crates listed as transferred never appear in any subsequent logs. When questioned, supervisors cite clerical errors or wartime overload. Investigators document the discrepancies. The pipeline remains open. At the Brooklyn Army Terminal, security tightens. Guards check trucks more frequently. Identification checks increase. Workers notice the shift. Some reduce activity, others continue as usual. The system adapts. Instead of removing crates at docks, thieves shift operations to warehouses further inland. Trucks arrive with correct loads but leave with fewer items after brief stops. Night shifts become the preferred time, fewer supervisors, fewer eyes. In November 1943, investigators track a suspicious truck leaving a warehouse in Long Island City. They follow it to a storage building miles away. When they approach, the truck speeds off. The investigators inspect the building. Inside, they find empty shelves and a faint smell of cigarette smoke. A back door leads to an alley. Tracks in the dust indicate recent movement. The room is cleared within hours. The truck is not recovered. Winter approaches, supply shortages worsen. Soldiers in European theatres request additional goods. The army responds by increasing shipment frequency. More cargo passes through New York. More opportunities arise for diversion. In December 1943, a shipment of army blankets disappears from a ship unloading at Brooklyn Harbor. The crates never reach the terminal. Investigators trace the manifest. The handler assigned to the crates denies touching them. The crane operator claims he never saw them. The supervisor lists the crates as misplaced. The goods appear weeks later in a warehouse owned by a company previously linked to organized crime. The company produces a bill of sale. The bill is forged. Investigators seize the items. No arrests follow. In January 1944, the pattern expands. Reports from Sicily indicate American morphine syrets circulating among civilians. Military police investigate. They find boxes identical to medical supplies missing from East Coast manifests. Civilians claim they purchased them from traveling merchants. The merchants disappear before questioning. The investigation ends without clear leads. In February 1944, investigators focus on paperwork. They review signatures of dock supervisors. They compare handwriting samples. They identify several forged entries. The forgeries match earlier discrepancies. They interview workers. None admit involvement. Foremen claim unfamiliarity with the signatures. The investigation notes the patterns but lacks a direct link to theft. Meanwhile, the Mafia pipeline continues operating. In New York, brokers supply bars, shops, and private buyers with stolen goods. In Sicily, intermediaries sell American rations in village markets. Goods move quietly through established channels. Trucks carry them at night. Boats transport them along coastal routes. Sicilian intermediaries distribute them across rural communities. The operation spans continents. By March 1944, investigators expand to trucking companies. They inspect routing slips. They interview drivers. Some drivers describe receiving updated route instructions from unknown men. Others report being redirected by foremen. A few admit they suspected irregularities, but claim no knowledge of theft. Investigators document their statements. The information adds to the growing picture, but does not establish a complete chain. In April 1944, the Army assigns additional personnel to dock oversight. They monitor forklifts, cranes, and deck operations. They inspect pallets as they move. They follow trucks from loading area to exit gate. The changes slow theft but do not eliminate it. Workers find new methods. Instead of taking whole crates, some remove individual cartons from inside boxes. Others replace goods with scrap material. Losses remain steady. In Sicily, military police observe more American goods entering civilian markets. Some items appear days after arriving on supply ships. This indicates theft occurring close to the point of arrival. Investigators watch unloading operations at Palermo Harbor. They monitor warehouses. They inspect vehicles leaving the docks. They find inconsistencies in cargo totals. They question workers. Few cooperate. Many fear local mafia retaliation. In June 1944, investigators in New York discover a small warehouse near Red Hook containing army clothing. The crates bear markings matching shipments processed weeks earlier. The warehouse tenant claims he purchased the goods legally. He presents paperwork. The paperwork is forged but difficult to discredit immediately. The goods are seized. The investigation continues. No arrests result. By August 1944, the supply chain grows more complex. The war shifts priorities to the European front. More shipments leave New York. More goods pass through Sicily. Oversight remains thin. The Mafia pipeline continues operating without major disruption. In late 1944, investigators uncover a pattern linking specific foremen to repeated discrepancies. Several foremen sign off on shipments that later show losses. The investigators interview them. Some deny involvement, others claim confusion due to workload. No direct evidence links them to theft. The cases remain open. By early 1945, theft begins to decline. Supply routes change. Some operations relocate to different ports. Sicily stabilizes under Allied governance, civilian access to goods increases. The underground market loses some value. The Mafia pipeline slows naturally. In April 1945, investigators review final theft reports. The total losses remain undefined. Many cases lack resolution. The evidence trails end abruptly. Storage rooms empty. Trucks change ownership. Warehouse tenants move. Workers disperse. Supervisors retire or transfer. By summer 1945, the pipeline fades. The war approaches its end. Army supply shipments decrease, dockside operations scale down. Civilian markets regain access to goods. The demand for stolen supplies declines. The crates stop disappearing. The warehouses stop receiving unexplained deliveries. The markets stop selling army cigarettes. The pipeline ends quietly, without confrontation, arrests, or closure. The war moves forward, and the theft operation disappears as if it had never existed at all.